Productive Dentist Academy podcast network.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, Dr. Maggie Augustin, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take into your own dental practice. If you are ready to reclaim your time so you can focus on great patient care without sacrificing yourself along the way, buckle up and listen in.
One of the things we talk a lot about is that people don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. If you help them figure out who they are, it becomes infinitely easier to help them figure out what they want. So if we put each of you in a position where you get to live your why, your how, and your what, you will love what you do. You will have passion for what you do. And passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams.
Hello, welcome to Everyday Practices. You are originally a dentist. Is it once a dentist, always a dentist? It's kind of like the military.
Oh, I think so.
That has transformed into the founder and CEO of the Why Institute. And this institute is working with hundreds of thousands, I'm assuming across the globe, probably, from small business owners, individual contributors, up to massive, large organizations and leaders of, it sounds like, billion-dollar companies, very large organizations as well. So this is something that's been proven and tested, and we have brought to listeners as getting a front seat into the White Institute and Gary Sanchez. So before we dive into why that particular ad was so amazing and what it did for your dental practice, take us back to the beginning. You were a dentist. You were very passionate about advanced technology. You poured everything into it, and you came to an inflection point that must have changed your journey dramatically. What was that?
Yeah, great point. So when I got out of dental school, the advice that I was given by the gurus of that time was build a great product and people will come. Go out and do the best job you can, and you'll naturally, mysteriously, people will come find you. So I spent 20 years reaching the highest levels you could go to in dentistry, studying with the best mentors, Pankey, Dawson, OBI, LVI, on and on and on, buying all the technology, having the beautiful practice, hiring the great team, working with business mentors on how to build my team. And still blending in with everybody else who said, yeah, I'm a dentist too.
Right.
Did that drive me freaking crazy? It's not the same what you're getting from them that you were getting from me, but nobody knew it.
No.
And my patients got used to the way we did things, and it's just how it was to go to the dentist. And so they didn't tell everyone about me like I thought they would. And I became very disillusioned. I was ready to quit. I was like, I have never worked so hard at something and not gotten the results that I thought I would. And so that's when I went out and hired a coach. I hired a guy by the name of John Assaraf. If you've ever seen the movie The Secret, then you know who he is. And so through him, I learned how to use the internet, learned how to do websites, drip kit, all that stuff. So I could tell the world all about me. Only problem is, what am I going to say? And since I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to sound bad, and I didn't want to sound desperate, and I didn't know, so I just stayed quiet until one day I heard John Assaraf interview Simon Sinek. And I learned about that concept of why. And I was like, man. So I watched his TED Talk 20, 30 times. I read his book multiple times. And I said, I have a great what, but I don't know my why. So I became obsessed with trying to figure out my why. So I called Simon. I said, hey, I need you to help me discover my why. So he
Wait. Whoa. You called Simon? You could just pick up the phone and call Simon? What kind of connections do you have?
I was still in, Simon.
Well, at that time, John Assaraf was my coach, so he knew Simon. So I said, John, connect me with Simon. And so he and I then spent a bunch of time together going back through my life, trying to figure out my why. He didn't really have a process for doing it. We just went backwards in time looking for clues. And when I finally figured out my why, which, like you, Chad, and I think you, Maggie, is to find a better way and share it, that's when my life started to make sense to me. I have a lot of better ways of doing things. I have a lot of patents and products and inventions. So in my practice, we stopped talking about what we do, crowns, bridges, fillings, all that stuff. And we started talking about what we believe. and why we do what we do. We believe that life is better when you have great teeth. In fact, that was our tagline, great teeth, better life. And that's the message that you just heard. That all culminated in that message that we utilized everywhere. And as we talked about what we believe, we attracted people that believed the same thing.
Sure.
There was a time when we thought having a health-centered practice was the thing, right? We were looking for people that are health-centered. Well, the health-centered people didn't have any dental problems. So we have all training in all this very high technical dentistry, and nobody needed it.
Hey, can I pause?
Yes.
Is that not that is such a catch-22 with medicine and dentistry, because it's like we should have a health model, not a disease model. And it's like, yeah, that's neat and all, but it's also tough to make a living off of like telling people great job. I mean, right? Can you imagine saying, I want to make a car wash for people who just came from the car wash? It's just like, well, I mean, that's great. I like, washed cars and healthy people and good food and people that are exercising, but it's just like, they're the least of the problem. Like, we do want to solve problems. The world, the economy survives on solving problems, right? If someone says, oh, that's good, I don't have any problems anymore, it's just like, well, I guess we're done here. Your thoughts?
Exactly.
People aren't,
Go ahead, Maggie.
people aren't interested in hearing how they can get. Okay, so people want a pill.
Correct.
People want a fast solution. I'll give you the perfect example. People come in and, as someone that has trained extensively, we know occlusal disease and we know the reasons for it and we know how to get it out. You have a patient coming in and you know why they're grinding. They're on antidepressants. They take medicine. There's many different ways around it. You can shove some Botox in them and reduce some of the lesions, or you can go through ortho. You can go through some therapy to actually get to the bottom of what's causing you to hold tension in this area. You could go through physical therapy. And what is a patient going to choose?
Easy.
They're not going to choose to talk about what's going on because that's too painful.
Can you just do the crown?
Yeah.
If so, can you just do a filling?
Yeah. Better yet, the filling, because my copay is like $23 as opposed
Correct.
to the $1,200 that the insurance
What a bargain.
deny for the crown, right?
Yeah, we ran into that. And exactly what you were saying, Chad, is when our goal was to attract health-focused people, well, they were already completed. They didn't need anything. And so you can't use your expertise for one, and you can't build your business that way for two. And so you heard in the radio spot, who we're looking for is the exact opposite. The ones that are a mess and are scared and know they need it and are highly motivated.
Yep.
And when you find them, of course, they have fear. So if you can alleviate the fear with sedation, then man, you can do so much for them. And they tell the world totally different. You help somebody who's already 95% healthy get to 96%. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, it's true.
So
that's not a billboard. I improved by 1 percentage point. Yeah.
Exactly. And so then as my practice was taking off, we went from just getting by at that time to having abundance, most fun, most satisfaction, most new patients, just we're killing it. And every year, that was in 2010, and every year from then on, we did better and better and better. I started getting calls from other dentists that said, hey, can you help me do what you did? Because I was in all these study clubs with them.
Okay.
And that's when I had
birthed the Y Institute.
A better way. I went back and figured out a better way to help people discover their why than what Simon came up with. And then I started doing it for anybody that would let me for free for the next 7 years. I just, if you were sitting in my dental chair getting numb, you were going to get your why discovered.
Yeah.
If you're sitting next to me on an airplane, you're getting your why discovered.
Yeah. It was you were crafting your sales pitch, so to speak, not to demean what you were doing, but for practical layman's terms, you were crafting that art within you.
And I found a better way, and I wanted to share it.
Yes.
And so I share it with anyone. Go ahead.
Was it hard for you to walk away from dentistry?
Well, here's kind of what happened. I'm glad you asked that question. So about 6 years ago, I was at this event in Santa Fe called Zozobra. It's kind of like a Burning Man thing, but more of a show. They burn this huge puppet, and there's maybe like 20,000 people there. It was a buddy's 45th birthday party, and so we ate and drank a little too much. I woke up the next day with a headache. So took a couple Advil, went back to bed. One of the Advil didn't dissolve, and it lodged into my GI tract, and it burnt a hole right where there was an artery. And I started bleeding internally, and I didn't know it. And so I drive back. I'm just feeling crummy, and I drive back from Santa Fe to Albuquerque, which is about an hour. Actually go to the gym and work out because I'm going to work this off. And then when I got home, I just still feeling bad. I started throwing up blood. I mean, a lot of blood. And then blood just was coming out everywhere. And so I thought, this isn't good. So I went to the ER, and it was a busy weekend, and they made me wait 11 hours. And by the time they finally admitted me, my blood pressure was 60/30, and I'd lost half of my blood. And so they put me in a room that wasn't private because it was so busy. And so I get up to use the restroom, and I stupidly lock the door behind me. And as soon as I lock the door, I pass out, and I hit my face on the sink,
Yes.
knocked out. And so luckily I woke up, and when I woke up, there's blood everywhere, and I pushed the door open, and then I passed out. And luckily somebody found me. So the next thing I know, I'm in this bed. They've cut all my clothes off. I have the 2 pads on, had to revive me, off to surgery to try to get to the bleed. They couldn't get to it because they were going, with a scope. So they decided to just wait and see what happened. So they do a CAT scan to see if I've stopped bleeding. And when they pump the dye into my arm, they blow out my arm. And my arm starts filling up with blood clots. And so now they do an ultrasound and find out that the blood clots are growing into my lungs. So the doctor walks in and he said, "Hey, Gary, we have to stop the blood clots because they're growing into your lungs. But if we try to stop the blood clots, we can't get to the bleed, so you're going to die. And if we don't stop the blood clots and they get into your lungs, you're going to die." I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" He said, "I don't know." And right then my phone rang, and it was a buddy of mine that was a cardiologist at the hospital. And he said, "Hey, Gary, I was just looking over the log today. I didn't even know you were in here, and I don't like what they're going to do." And so he said, "I'm going to take over." So I was in the ICU for 9 days. A lot of crazy stuff happens to you in the ICU. I don't know if any of you have ever been a patient in the ICU, but pretty crazy stuff. Ultimately, what happened was I had to go to bed one evening with an IV of heparin to stop the blood clot and hope I didn't bleed, which is what happened. And then they could treat it with blood thinners.
Hold on. At that moment, they give you the heparin. Do you think good night, farewell, possibly? I mean, like as you're going to sleep, is it possible that you're just thinking like, what if I don't wake up?
I didn't go to sleep for one. Bed. But secondly, so here's what actually happened that night. I was worried, just like you mentioned, what's going to happen? Because you can't feel it. I was not in pain.
Yeah.
I was thinking, really, I'm going to die from a freaking Advil? Are you kidding me? Not jumping out of a helicopter or off a cliff or something on Advil? I had no pain. And so the doctor was there, and I said, "What's going to happen if I start to bleed?" Because she comes in to tell me, "Oh, I have to go home. My shift is over. I'm leaving." I'm like, "Wait a second. Hold on. I'm about to start heparin, and you're leaving." "Yeah, but I've told everyone what to do, and they're all aware of this, and they're going to take care of it, and they know, and they have my pager and everything else." And so many crazy things that happened to me while I was there. She leaves, and I thought to myself, I'm going to test this. I said, because I don't believe her. So I buzzed the nurse, and I said, "All right, I start to bleed internally. What are you going to do?" She tells me what she's going to do. I said, "That's not even close to what the doctor said." She said, "Well, actually, I would get the charge nurse and let her know." I said, "Go get the charge nurse." So the charge nurse comes in, and I said, "I start to bleed. What are you going to do?" She tells me the complete wrong stuff. I said, "Go get the doctor." She said, "You have her pager." She said, "Okay, let me go page the doctor." 2 hours later, she comes back and says, "I couldn't get a hold of the doctor." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So nothing was in place if that had happened. I would have died. So that's when I really started thinking about it. Luckily, then my phone rang, and it was the doctor, and she said, "Man, I am so sorry. I thought they knew. I just excuses."
Sure.
Excuses.
Sure.
Doctor, are you tired of repeating yourself with your team over and over again, and yet you still see treatment walk out the door? If so, you're not alone. The Clinical Calibration Institute, powered by Productive Dentist Academy, is an all-new online platform that unites your team around your philosophy of care, so patients can say yes with confidence and you grow with purpose. Including online curriculum with world-class faculty, monthly live mastermind sessions for each department within your practice, and an online private community, this is your home to grow. Head over to clinicalcalibration.com today to join every member of your team for one very low monthly membership fee. That's clinicalcalibration.com.
But when I finally made it through and made it out, I got back to my practice. I came to Indianapolis. That's why I was in Indianapolis, what we were talking about. I went to the Brain Institute in Dr. Khan at Indiana University. Indiana University. Is that in Indianapolis? What's in Indianapolis? University of Indianapolis? Well, anyways, that's why I was there. I had to go through all these brain tests because my brain wasn't working very well after all the stuff I'd been through. And but I finally get back to my practice. And one of my patients who's in his mid-80s took me aside. He said, "Hey, Gary, you got a second chance on life here. When you get to be my age and you look back on your time here on Earth, are you going to be glad you stayed a dentist? Or are you going to wish you'd taken this Y thing to the world?"
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going to wish I'd taken this Y thing to the world." He says, "Well, then you know what you need to do." And that's when I walked away.
And Google says, yes, Indiana University does have a campus in Indianapolis. It's officially known as Indiana University, Indianapolis.
That's where I was. That's where I was. Boom. That's where I got to see the potholes we were talking about.
Gary,
Yeah.
I'm very curious because you have really distilled the whys down into 9 whys. So there are 9, and all of the years, 7 years volunteering. One, that is such a passion call if I have ever heard of it. And my dad has always told me for my whole life, do what you love, and your success will follow from that. But anytime you get that inkling, go towards it. So in one essence, yes, creating that sales kind of pitch, but other deep research. How did you come up with the 9 whys? What are they? And can you walk us through that process of how you discovered it and really put it together in the Why Institute process?
Yeah. I wish I could tell you an amazing story, but this is what actually happened. I was working with a big group of lawyers in Florida. This guy said, "Hey, could you come? We're having a big event. Would you mind taking us through the whole why discovery?" Because I had worked with him, the founder, and he credits that with the success of his business from going from 0 to many, many millions. And so he said, "Will you come and work with our lawyer?" So there was about 50 lawyers in the room. And he said, "Just tell them about the why, take one of them out of this is what I used to do. I would take somebody out of the audience on stage with me. I would discover their why right in front of the audience, and then I would build their messaging, marketing, and branding for them right on the spot. Because once you know somebody's why, it's very easy to develop their message, market, all that stuff's very easy to do. So that's what I did. I brought somebody out. He said, "You'll probably be on stage 45 minutes, an hour," something like that. Okay, great. So I bring somebody out of the stage, audience on stage with me, discover their why, and then build their messaging, marketing, branding. Well, when I was done, somebody else raised their, "Hey, can I go next?" 14 hours later, I'm still on stage.
How many hours later?
13.
13 hours? That's like Tony Robbins level. Like you just jumped 13 hours?
And about halfway through that day, this one gal, this female lawyer, raised her hand and she goes, "Hey, Gary, how many whys are there?" I don't know. I never thought of that. At that when I started keeping track.
No way.
The same 9 kept coming up over and over and over. And the name of the whys are the words that people would use. So Chad and Maggie and myself would always say, here's the questions I would ask them. There's basically 2 questions. Tell me a story about an interaction you had with somebody at work that made you feel successful. Chad and Maggie would tell me about how they helped somebody find a better way to smile or a better way to do something. I would too. You, Reagan, would talk about how you helped somebody move forward, just how you were there for them, how you contributed to their success. right?
100%. And in the results your questions were very interesting to me, how you came up with the questions that are all in the why discovery. And at the end, so listeners, if you take this, at the end, you get this beautiful dashboard and it walks you through your different whys and how they show up. And in it, it was down towards the bottom, it had like words that are used to describe you or things that you will likely say. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. I've said those specific things. And Chad and Maggie, you both know how powerful words are, and specifically what people say. It gives that meaning that's unique to them. So contribute is my big why. And I felt like it fit me to an absolute T. Like if I believe in someone's mission, if I believe I want to be a part of it. And that was brilliant. Did you, Maggie and Chad, I'm curious, did you get the report and look through it and get to that section by chance and kind of resonate with the Better Way? I think Better Way fits both of you because both of you are always on that endless pursuit of, maybe it can be done differently. That's what I hear. Like maybe I know this is how it's done. Chad says that, Gary, to me all the time. I know, but.
Yeah. So Gary, I know that one of your sayings is there's, always a better way. Funny enough, mine, I'm one of the 13%. It says that my why is better way. So that one's mine in the subcaption. What a wonderful why you have. I like that. But so Gary, let me push into this for a minute.
Yeah.
These are self-admitted questionnaires, right? So how far off?
So
Okay.
there's over 4,000 possible question options. I use logic-based programming. So it's not, we don't take the same, most assessment, that's why we don't call it an assessment. We call it a discovery.
Sure.
Like Myers-Briggs or Colby or Strength Finders or those. There's a set list of questions that everybody answers.
All right.
And a score. That's not what this is. There's over 4,000 possible question options. Your next question is based on the one you just answered.
Oh, interesting.
So we would all go in different direction because Chad, you and Maggie and I all have different how and whats.
Mm-hmm.
And Reagan would be on a completely different path than us because her why is contribute. So it's not a scoring type thing. And your next question is based on the one you just answered, and it double checks itself as it goes. And it actually goes all 9 levels deep. You didn't get to see that, but I have it in my dashboard. So I know a whole lot more about you than I've given you access to yet.
Very cool.
So it gives, for those of you that are listening, what this does is it gives you the words to tell the world exactly who you are and why they should choose you. And if you take that and you create your messaging, your marketing, your branding, your website, your radio spots, your conversations, all of that based on it, not only will it feel authentic to you, but it will attract the right people that are looking for you. Those are the ones that you want as your new patients. You don't want everybody. You're looking for people that believe what you believe.
That's right.
So,
well, I have to say, there is when you take this, listeners, and you go through it, there is the why, which is like your top overarching level. And then there is the how, and then there is your what. And I'm jumping, I hope I'm on video. I'm jumping because when I went through this process and it came back to me, my why is contribute, my how is make sense, and my what is mastery. And this year in particular, I've been talking to our CEO, Victoria Peterson, about what I wish to master and why that is so important to me that I go into mastery. And there are the celebrations and the wins of having these attributes, and then there's the challenges that come with it. And one of the challenges under, I think it was make sense. It could have been make sense or mastery, but one of them was overcommitting because you're a contributor, you want to help everybody. And I realized that was my way to communicate. I want to hone into one area. And it was really because I could say yes to so many things, and I often do.
Yes.
So to go from being like that all utility player who is kind of abandoning herself because she just keeps saying yes and taking on things, how do I communicate that? And I kept saying the word mastery. So when that came up, I was absolutely floored with how well it was, just how well it was communicated to me. And I thought this truly makes sense to me. And I also took that information and I looked at my LinkedIn recommendations. So over the years, what people have said about me. So I don't know if you guys do this, but I don't like ask for referrals per se or like reviews, but I have over the years said, if we've worked together in a voluntary capacity or whatever, just leave me a recommendation. And I read what people wrote and I was able to correlate that with what this says. So Chad, kind of to answer your question too, this is self-admitted and then it goes through logic. So yes and no. But I think how you answered obviously was reflected in kind of a third party situation, if you will, which was really fascinating.
Chad, can I take you through some things about your YOS?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Do you have it up on the screen there?
I think so. I have a couple I think my dashboard up, and then on this one is my I think I had clicked on what is my Y. So yeah.
So go back to your dashboard and where it's
There.
simple YOS. Do you see simple YOS?
Yes.
Read that out loud to us where it says, I believe how
Yeah.
to ultimately.
Okay, so the simplest way to articulate who you are, go ahead and say it out loud. There are three things: why, how, and what. The first is why. I believe that success happens when we find a better way and are able to share it.
Yep. Keep
The
going.
how is how I do that. How I do that is by creating and following systems and processes that lead to predictable results. Ultimately, what I bring are solutions that make sense.
And how does that feel to you?
It resonates with me because like one of the things that I like doing is systems and putting together, like I've been doing EOS, the entrepreneurial operating systems, and basically coming down to it's just like a lot of questions that I ask sometimes when I'm communicating with people lately in the last month or two has been, am I just solving your problem or am I hearing you okay? Like, because I'm stopping wanting to recognize like I might be that quintessential guy that's just being like, well, then just do this. And it's like, but is that what you wanted to hear? Because that still is the answer, but trying to figure out.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Okay. So for those of you that are listening, if you had a piece of paper and pen or pencil, Chad's why is better way, his how is right way, and his what is make sense. Okay. So it's better way, right way, makes sense. So that tells us a lot about Chad. He's always in search of a better way. He goes to bed thinking about better ways and he wakes up thinking about better ways and he cannot turn it off. And he's rarely satisfied, right? He's always looking to improve things. Now, how he does that is he's going to be looking for processes and systems that work. He wants to find things that he knows will get predictable, consistent results, which is what EOS is. Because ultimately what he brings are solutions that just make sense. If we just do this, it'll make sense. It'll work, right?
Yep.
So what also that tells us is who your ideal client is, who Chad is ultimately looking for. So write this down if you can. I'm looking for someone who's looking for. So I'm looking for someone who's looking for, and we're going to add your why, how, and what there, and that will be your ideal client. So I'll do it for you, Chad. I'm looking for someone who's looking for a better way to move forward. I'm looking for someone who's looking for the right way to get results. And I'm looking for someone who's looking for solutions that make sense.
Which is why I love our second opinions that we give for patients to be able to say, I just actually had one this last week. I was working out of town. And so my admin sent me this thing saying, hey, this patient wants to know, they were at another office, they got this x-ray and they were told they need root canal treatment. And I said, listen, according to the x-ray, which is only one view of it, but it just does. It just does. Don't even bother. Just tell them the first dentist is telling the truth. They can have peace of mind knowing it's not bogus. They just need it. That, like skip the waste of time. Just do it. And that's an example where it's just like, yes, it makes sense. Just do it.
And so that's what the essence of your marketing message is about. This is who I'm looking. If someone is looking for a better way, is looking for the right way to get results, and is looking for things that just make sense, you're their guy.
Mm-hmm.
You will have a great relationship. They will love being with you. They will love everything you're all about. Now,
And Maggie, this reminds me of our mutual case that we're working on, where after, I don't know what it was, about a month of looking at that case going, why does this keep on failing from the old specialist? We'll keep it anonymous by saying, not saying what kind of specialist, but the old specialist who was working on that case. And then all of a sudden I go, wait, we don't have much AP spread to this, all on X case. I was like, well, there's why it's failing. It's not the screws, it's not the abutments. It's just the fact that the physics are pushing on this, And so I was blown away, you and I both, because it's like, you think someone would have seen that? Like,
And I love it how a general dentist or two
oh,
sometimes could
I know.
possibly maybe even know more than a specialist sometimes. Sorry, had to throw that out there.
I know. It was tough because when it became so clear, it was just like, well, there's one, there's a couple solutions, but it's just like, but there's the problem. Now we know how to move forward.
Yeah.
And Maggie, we could do the same thing with your why, how, and what, right? I'm looking for someone who's looking for a better way. I'm looking for someone who's looking to do it differently. Maggie's how is challenge.
Correct.
And I'm looking for someone who's looking to dive in deep and really look at what's going on. Not look at it at just a surface level, but let's figure out, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What are we going to do about it?
It's like you've been living outside of my window.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so that's that's what you need to talk about in your messaging, your marketing, your branding. All of that is about, why should I choose you? And it's not because you have all these degrees and you have all these courses you've gone to and everybody says it. And, I'm the most high tech. Well, only until I buy something more high tech than you have.
Correct. But you know what, Gary? Maggie, I actually feel like she has that message dialed in. Like I feel like that when you were saying that, I was like, that's what I think about when I look at your website, Maggie.
So you may already have it there.
That was
There might be some
by
tweaking.
TPA.
Yes.
And Reagan had a big hand in that.
Well, there's what blows my mind about this, and this does get into the radio script and the ad that you played for us, how beautifully and it goes deeper, and it's a little more scientific, and it's scalable. It's something that's scalable with this amazing, logical thinking discovery process that you've set up. But it is very, it helps people understand that hero's journey. So in the Donald Miller story brand framework, you get down to that philosophical why. What was that moment? Why is this unfair that someone has to live this way? And so for you, Gary, hearing, I was in the ICU, like it was really literally a touch and go, not a good situation. So you had that very, very, very rock bottom moment that said, I'm going to shift my life, and this is why I'm going to shift my life. So you had that sort of trajectory for it. And I, when what's so beautiful about this is ideology is one of those core areas where people will make the decision. They will do it on the ideology. And you have just distilled down the ideology of each person. So for Maggie, making sure that people feel seen, that they feel heard, that is so important to her. And the way that you just described that with Chad, you're right. That is like, it's a signal. It is a beacon, and it's so easy to work into the story brand framework. If you're going to go that route, or whatever methodology you choose, you can plug in that belief, because now we're not talking surface level. The how things get done is not really as important as the why we're doing it in the first place. So I think you just shoot straight to the heart, and that beacon just radiates out. And you're right, Gary. I think you're right. It does make everything easier after that. You do have to trust it, and you have to be clear about what your why is. Also, you have to be honest with yourself. I know that I've interviewed dentists over the years and we get down the path, and I don't know if this has happened with you, Gary, as you're helping people discover their why, but for example, they discovered I don't want to be a dentist and I don't want to admit it to anybody. I have reasons for why I don't want to become a dentist, but what do I do with this now? And that, to me, that flips over into therapy at that point. But marketing isn't going to help you with that.
Well, one of the things we talk a lot about is that people don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. If you help them figure out who they are, it becomes infinitely easier to help them figure out what they want. So if we put each of you in a position where you get to live your why, your how, and your what, you will love what you do. You will have passion for what you do. And passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams. Without passion, you quit, you give up. With passion, you persevere. So if we put you, let's take Maggie, we put Maggie in a place where she gets to find better ways, she gets to think outside the box, and she gets to dive in really deep, looking for the nuances, the little things that make the big difference. Would you enjoy doing that?
I already do, but yes, absolutely. That's a dream come true for anybody.
Anybody.
It doesn't feel like work that way, right? You're pursuing your true calling. There's a light.
Exactly. But if I put you, Maggie, in a place where you don't get to find better ways, you don't get to think outside the box, and you don't get to dive in deep, how are you going to like that?
Yeah, it's gonna feel gritty and muddy and heavy, and I'm not gonna want to walk through the door in the morning.
And how about if you do that, if we put you in that spot for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years?
I'm gonna be kind of a jackhole to just about everybody that works around me, which I've lived that life too.
So now you can look around and see people that are really struggling. And if you look at what they're doing from the perspective of their why, how, and what, you'll see is not in alignment. And all you have to do is help them make a decision to move into a place where they get to live it, and you know they're going to love it. There's such a difference between being able to do something and loving what you do. Right? And so
Absolutely.
put people in a place where they love what they're doing. And this is your team as well. So if you knew the why, how, and what of every one of your team members, you could create a team that is so inspired and so excited because they get to do what they love to do every single day. Imagine what that would be like for them. So do this for each one of your team members. Create a matrix that is, here's their name, here's what they do, here's their why, how, and what. And you can very quickly see, do I have the right people in the right place, doing the right things where they love what they do? And if not, just help them find that position where they get to do that. And you will see a team that is so excited, so fired up to come to work, can't wait to share the message, can't wait to talk about you. That's how you do it.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like your whyinstitute.com would shut down, in the best of ways, a lot of Facebook private discussion questions where someone will say, I just don't, I see them about 3 times a week, where someone will post as a dentist in a private dentist only group and say, I don't like what I do. I just graduated a year ago, or I graduated, 30 years ago, and I don't know, like all over the board, but they kind of have the common theme of, guys, what do you guys do to get through this? Because it just isn't, like, I'm not only having a day that I don't like or whatever. It's not a week, it's not a month. It's turning into I don't like this, and I don't know if I like myself and stuff like that. And yeah, but it'd be interesting, like, if the answer was go to whyinstitute.com and just like get moving on it. Yeah, Gary, your thoughts?
I feel kind of bad in a certain way that I haven't spent more time in dentistry after I left dentistry, because there's so much I could do to help dentists that went through what I was going through, because I felt
Right.
that way.
Right.
And all of the work that I've been doing has actually been outside of dentistry, only because I just haven't been asked. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't really gotten back around to who the heck is in charge of what and what. I'm asked to speak at a lot of events all over the world now, but I haven't really been asked to speak in dentistry.
Right.
So
Well, Gary, that makes sense. Dentistry is about a decade behind everybody else. So I think you're probably just par for the course right now.
you know what's interesting is I was at the National Ophthalmology Conference, and ophthalmology is very similar to dentistry, and they think they're 20 years behind dentists.
Really?
I don't know.
How little do you want to get paid? And how about like nothing? Because in dentistry, they don't,
Expand that thought, Maggie.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't pay much in dentistry. But I suppose if there's something for you to stand behind and you can make some money on the back end by selling a product,
Oh,
the product.
okay. So you're saying as consumers, dentists don't they're thrifty wanting.
Know that.
I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah,
Got it.
that might need to be cut out of the podcast. That this was
No, it will not be, because
No.
there's truth to that.
I don't know that it's that. You are a dentist, so I think you get to say dentist.
That's
dentist
right.
chic. What from my humble perspective, I see that dentists have so much on their plate and decisions they have to make every single day that if I was a dentist, my brain would be firing so quickly that I would probably say I would devalue certain areas. So
I have people coming up to me frequently. It's like, hey, could you recommend a marketing company? I want something cheap. Well, cheap
really
doesn't
good.
work. Okay, if you want cheap, you'll get cheap. And so that we're kind of backwards when it comes to that kind of stuff. But even when it comes to some of these people that are putting on the events, they do not. As a wellness speaker myself, I'm constantly
with this. Okay.
I'm sorry, we're not going to pay you. You're a wellness speaker. You should do this for free. Well, why are you paying implant specialists to speak and you're paying me nothing?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'm a little bit on a high horse, and there's an air of bitterness to it. And so i- we need you desperately in dentistry. Absolutely. We just saw what you can do on this podcast, how much we can all benefit. Um, our status needs you, but get ready to get paid like $10.
Well, I've learned I'm not worried about that because here's a little tip back that might help you, Maggie, is whenever I get asked to speak at events, I never, they'll say, well, what do you charge to come speak at our event? And I'll say, well, what's your budget?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and it's usually even more than what I'm usually paid 25,000 to come to speak. They're usually more. So it's very, but I bring something different though. I take the entire audience through discovering their YOS right on the spot, right there.
Yeah.
So I don't talk about the concept of, hey, this would be nice if you knew it. Hey, how about if
Yes.
right now? And then let's talk about how you can go use it in your life, your
Yep.
practice.
Yep. So tangible.
Yeah. So let's say there's an audience, like I just worked with that pork group. There was 1,000 pork farmers. That if they had paid me just to take it, it would have been 100,000 because it's $100 to take it, $97. So they got a great deal to have me come.
Mm-hmm.
And they all got to take it for free as for me being there. So anyways, that's a little off topic, but
Well, you bring up something that I think is important in dentistry specifically, but in any service industry also, is the nuance of listening. So I when I'm going through a branding process, for example, it is critically important that I have a one-on-one with that person and I interview that person. And what I'm listening for are the nuances that indicate to me we should go down this path or we should investigate this a little bit deeper. So when I call it the third level of why, and that came from, I think, Skip Miller, who taught a lot of sales training and, combined with Donald, so my Miller boys. But, going down into that third level of why for them, I have to listen to them. So to have you on stage going through that, I don't know how I could, other than, doing your 4,000 different ways of logic thinking, know how you could do that. Like, you need the human heart to understand where that group is going to go. Or like before we hit the recording button, you were discussing a group that you were working through, which quite a few individuals for a very large initiative. Do you have one of them come up, or do you work in a small group and ask them? And then I guess my third question is, do you have coaches that help facilitate this process? Like, it's one thing to take the discovery, Gary. What are the next steps to make sure that we can actually put this into practice and make it really stick?
Yeah, so if you're somebody that likes to do it on your own, we have online courses that'll walk you through how to live your YOS, or how to do this with your family, or how to build your messaging and your marketing, all that stuff. We have AI tools now that we can share with you. I have a clone that you can have access to, where you can just ask me questions and I can go through all that with you. I put like over 4 million pieces of data into this clone. And so now you can just ask me, hey, my YOS is this. What does it mean? How do I use this in my practice? How do I talk to my spouse about this? How do I, all kinds of questions. But then we also have about 300 coaches that could take your company through the process of incorporating in with your team and then expanding it out into your message and your reach. So there's a lot of ways that you could do this if you wanted to. And so, yeah, that's I think what happens is when companies utilize the YOS, it becomes the language that they speak. So here's what typically happens. And in fact, if we had gotten on this call and I didn't know your YOS, and what we would do is we would look at each other's hairstyle, we'd look at glasses, we'd look at jewelry, we'd look at what you're wearing, we'd look at what is in the background, and we would create a narrative around what we think we see. And that's who you would be to me, or I would be to you. And that's how we would treat each other based on what we think we see. But now that I know your why, how, and what, I know exactly what you're thinking and what's going through your head and the way you process. And so it makes it so much more, the conversation so much richer when we already know who each other is. You
Sure.
so much faster.
Sure.
And so I don't meet with anybody in person or on Zoom unless I know their YOS. What are we going to talk about? Going to go round and round on a bunch of BS. And we're not, once I know your YOS, I just had
It somewhat profiles us in. It dials us in.
Dials you in. And once you know that I know who you are, the walls go away. You don't have to puff your chest out. You don't have to tell me anything. You don't have to impress me. We don't have to impress each other. We can just, hey, how about if we have a real conversation? Like, what's really going on here? And it becomes, I had a call a couple weeks ago with the Admiral of the Navy, because we're going to bring this, to the Navy. And he hadn't taken his YOS yet. When we had this call, I had never met him, and he hadn't taken his YOS yet. So we sent him an email. Hey, Admiral Fogo, you need to take your YOS before we get on this call. Oh, okay. And so he does it. And then when we get on the call, there's like two buddies having a conversation versus I'm talking to Admiral, the Admiral.
Yeah.
And it just allows for real conversations, real connection, moving things forward at a much faster pace.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, I think it is it your how? You have simplify and clarify, right? Is it your how and your what?
Clarify, simplify.
Man, if anything, thank you for this hour of time to dive into this. You have definitely honed in and made things better, and you've made it simple, easy, it's clear. And I love how you just sort of glossed over that you're working with the Navy right now. This has been proven, time and again, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way to learn more about the Y Institute?
Yeah, so go to whyinstitute.com, whyinstitute.com. And if you use this code, I'll give you a code. It's podcast50.
Okay.
Podcast50, you can get it at half price. It's only $97. And I'm talking to Dennis. I know you have the money. But
in fact, Put in podcast 150 for a special discount of $50 more.
Like,
Yes.
think about at the service level, doctors, listeners, think about what you're spending on marketing right now, thinking
Right.
about how frustrated you are. $50 is nothing if it means that you can clarify your message, make it simpler, and attract those patients.
And I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to give you all some homework, and then everybody listening. Here's what I want you to do. Once you've discovered your YOS, your Y operating system, you're going to get a thing that, like what Chad read, which was his simple YOS. What I want you to do is copy it, paste it into ChatGPT, copy your current about page on LinkedIn,
Oh,
post it
and
in.
ask it if it like if they're synonymous, if they're resonating.
Well, then use this prompt. Rewrite my LinkedIn about page so that it's authentic to my YOS and
Yes.
will resonate with my ideal client.
Yes.
And watch what you get. And that's the message you can use all over your website. You can use it everywhere. And you can then tell it, create 5 sample taglines for me.
Yeah.
And be blown away by what you get.
Yeah.
So if that isn't worth $50 for you, then
Right.
don't come back.
Exactly. You're not the person I'm looking for.
You're not looking for a better way. You're just looking to complain.
Hey, there's a different group for that. Just go.
Go to the complaint podcast,
Go to.
not the Better Way podcast.
Well, Dr. Sanchez, very cool for you to come on. I super appreciate it. It was great knowing you or meeting you online here. I look forward to possibly someday meeting you in person.
Yes, that would be awesome. Love to get back into working in dentistry, doing some things in dentistry if there's a possibility for that. But until then, we meet online.
That's right.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary. Absolutely our pleasure. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Everyday Practices. We look forward to your feedback. You can always email Chad or I, reach out to us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whatever your pleasure is. We always want to know what we can do to help make things better for you as a listener. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices podcast. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.